Dear friends, welcome to another thrilling episode of The Informant Military. In today's video, we delve into Nicolás Maduro's order to close all of Venezuela's borders, completely isolating the country and blocking the entry of international observers. Is this the first step towards a coup in Sunday's elections? If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Everything suggests that Venezuelan dictator Nicolás Maduro is going to stage a coup. He has completely shut down the country, banned international observers from entering Venezuela, and even opposition poll workers are being denied access to polling stations. In other words, there will be an election tomorrow, Sunday. But at this point, my friend, it is very unlikely that it will be a fair election. Well, on Friday, July 26th, in an unexpected move, Nicolás Maduro ordered the closure of all land, sea, and air borders in Venezuela. Throughout the day, hundreds of flights to Venezuela were canceled, and more than 100 international observers, including deputies, senators, and even former presidents from other countries, were prevented from traveling or were summarily deported from Venezuela. Interestingly, despite the mass expulsion of these observers, Celso Amorim, the main advisor to Brazilian President Lula da Silva, was the only one who managed to land in Venezuela, where he was received by ministers and personal advisors of Nicolás Maduro. This complete border closure and the expulsion and prohibition of international observers might signify the first step of a planned coup to rig the elections. To provide context, after the disqualification of Maria Corina Machado's candidacy, the opposition successfully registered Edmundo González as a candidate, with Maria Corina rallying the entire opposition to support his candidacy. The impact of this effort is reflected in the polls, with several institutes reporting a lead of over 40 points for Edmundo González. It was this significant disadvantage in the polls that led Maduro to threaten war if he is not elected. This war threat, made at a rally and repeated in an interview, proves that Nicolás Maduro is aware of his disadvantage and genuinely fears defeat in the elections. It's crucial to remember that Maduro has complete control over the CNE, or National Electoral Council, an organization established by Hugo Chavez in 1999 to organize and oversee elections in the country, including vote counting. This means that, in practice, Nicolás Maduro controls the vote count. The problem for Maduro in this case is the international observers. Elections are critical events in any democracy, making it essential to prevent any fraud, with the best way to do this being through the participation of independent international observers. Typically, these political entities and former politicians travel to countries to observe the voting and vote counting process without intervening, carefully monitoring the entire procedure. If there are any signs of fraud or misconduct, everything is recorded and shown to the world. Therefore, when a country's leader plans to rig the elections, the first step is to prevent the presence of these observers. For example, this was done by Alexander Lukashenko, who has been in power in Belarus for 30 years, in the 6 consecutive presidential elections he won, and by Vladimir Putin, who has been in power in Russia for 24 years, in the 2024 presidential elections which he won, with almost 90% of the votes. Thus, what Maduro did on Friday by expelling and banning international observers for the July 28th elections was simply copying a common practice of dictatorships and autocracies. Therefore, the answer to the video's title question is probably yes. Nicolás Maduro, knowing he is likely to be defeated at the polls, is likely planning to rig the elections, and the first step involves preventing the presence of international observers. By completely closing the borders, Maduro also prevents the entry of Venezuelans who have lived in exile for years. Today, in 2024, Venezuelans represent the largest national group of refugees on the planet. Not even Ukraine, which has been invaded, devastated, and ravaged by Vladimir Putin since 2022, has as many refugees living in other countries. Out of a population of 28 million, about 7.7 million Venezuelans have been forced to leave the country, fleeing the oppression and misery created by Nicolás Maduro. Millions of votes that Maduro knows will go directly to the opposition. Thus, by closing Venezuela's borders, Maduro not only prevents observers from being present for Sunday's elections, but also prevents the opposition from receiving millions of votes from Venezuelans who could temporarily return to the country to exercise their right to vote. All of this, combined with actions and statements over the past few months, indicates that Maduro is indeed preparing to rig the elections and consolidate his dictatorship in Venezuela. Stay tuned for more updates and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to support us and stay informed about the latest analyses and information on major geopolitical issues around the world.
El 28 de julio, si no quieren que Venezuela caiga en un baño de sangre, en una guerra civil fratricida, producto de los fascistas, garanticemos el más grande éxito, la más grande victoria de la historia electoral de nuestro pueblo.